in the building. What's good, y'all? Hope y'all having a good week. You know what I mean? Shout out to the sponsors, the Snow Goons. You know what I mean? Creative Juices Music, Elite Sound International. Count the gear off the Snow Goons website. And make sure to count the shirts off for Creative Juices Music. You know what I mean? We got the homie, you know what I mean? Jake Palumbo on the show tonight. You know what I'm saying? Once again, shout out to the Grind Mode Cypher, you know what I mean? Snow Goons, of course. Last night's show was fucking amazing, man. Shout out to everybody that came out last night, too. You know what I mean? Anyways, like I said, man, I hope y'all having a good week. It's going to be a dope show and whatnot tonight. Just waiting for the homie to hop up in here and shit. But once again, make sure you follow all the sponsors to Snow Goons, you know what I mean? Elite Sound International, Creative Juices, you know what I mean? Shout out to all my people, everybody that checks in on the show, you know what I mean? I love all y'all, appreciate all y'all, you know what I mean? Because like I said, y'all could be doing anything right now, but instead y'all tune in, y'all enjoy the show and shit, and I know I definitely enjoy the show. So, once again, peace and blessings to all that. Yeah, word. So, we up to like 50 episodes or something like that on YouTube and whatnot. So we gonna keep it moving, man. As long as y'all appreciate the show and love it, you know what I mean? I'm having a good time. Yo.
What up, what up?
What's good, man?
What's
How's
happening,
your week
man?
going?
What's that?
How's your week going and whatnot?
Good, man. Staying busy. Working steady, man. No, everything's good.
No doubt, no doubt. I hear that, man. Yeah, I definitely been looking forward to this interview, man, because after hearing, you know what I mean, the Solving Cases album and shit, I was definitely impressed, you know what I mean?
Word, man. I appreciate that.
Most deaf. See, I didn't know you was a rapper. I'm not gonna front it. Like, you know what I'm saying? I thought you was just mainly a producer, but then when I heard the new joint you was putting me onto, it sounded like, oh, this man rap too. I'm like, that's what's up, man. It's very impressive. And you a DJ, so
You know, it's funny because a lot of times people know me for different reasons. Like sometimes people know me for the beats, sometimes people know me for rapping, sometimes people don't know I do music at all. And they just know me from being the studio engineer, you know, mixing and mastering, or, you know, there's even people that don't even necessarily follow my music. They follow me for the funny things I say on the internet. You know what I mean? Like, so my thing is like, however you find me is cool. I'm just glad you found me. You know what I mean? So.
no doubt. Well, fucking the brother Elder Sensei had nothing but positive to say about you. So, you know what I mean? I definitely had to check you out and shit. You know what I mean? No doubt.
Word, man. El's my brother.
Word. So fuck it. We get right into it, man, because I got a lot of questions, you know what I mean? Some shit to keep you on your toes, as always, you know what I mean? Those that know the show know I like to keep y'all all on your toes and shit, you know what I mean? Have a good time and shit. So let's get right into it. So I'm not sure if you was asked this question. I'm pretty sure it might be obvious right now, but where did you come up with your name?
Well, I mean, my name is Jake. Like, Jake is my name. Like, it's on my birth certificate. Jake is not short for Jacob. Like, you know, my middle name is Jake. I heard that, like, I've always wanted to have, like, an alter ego because, you know, I'm kind of almost like mild-mannered Clark Kent by day. But then I've got this whole other, you know, much more animated wild side of me that tends to come out when I'm rapping. So I always wanted to be like Jake something. And, you know, because I did want a separation, too, between me, the artist, and me, the real person. Like, if at all possible, to try to maintain some kind of separation. So when I was a teenager, like in 99, I heard the name Palumbo on TV. And I was like, yo, I should be Jake Palumbo. And it was like, oh, like, you know, light shining down from the heavens. And so I started rocking with it, and it worked. And then, you know, a year or two later, I got it tattooed on my arm for the purpose of, like, I didn't want to be 50 years old, like, having to stare at this tattoo and be like, oh, well, you know, Jake Palumbo, that was the idea I had. Like, I was going to make music and all that. Like, I didn't want to have regrets. So like to almost kind of force myself to make this music, thing work, I got it tattooed. But, up until her last days, like my own mother called me Jake Palumbo. When I would call, she would go, Mr. Palumbo. So it's like, it's who I am. But the funny thing, a funny story is that like when I got into the music business, and especially after I became an engineer, people would write checks to Jake Palumbo and, thinking that was my real name, and I would have a hard time cashing it. Because I could go to the bank and like point at my arm and be like, yo, So I had to actually register it as a DBA, like an alias, to where you could write checks to Jake Palumbo. But yeah, it just stemmed from wanting to have an alter ego, because I got like this much more animated side of me as opposed to how I am like day to day. So.
No doubt, no doubt. Yeah, I figured I'd ask that. Yo, I'm not going to front. When I heard Palumbo, I don't know why. I know it rhymes with Columbo, but for some reason, I'm like, maybe he was like playing with the letters inside. You know what I'm saying? Like,
well, back in the day, they used to misprint my name on flyers. Like, I would be Jake Columbo on a lot of flyers, unfortunately. But that was part of the paying dues process.
That's crazy, man. That's crazy. Yeah, that's what's up, though, man. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Sometimes we get names for the weirdest places and shit. But the fact of the matter is, it works. You know what I mean? It's catchy. It's catchy, and it also, like you said, it's your other alias. So it's the perfect storm and shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And in hip hop anyway, I always liken, I'm a huge wrestling fan, obviously, but I always liken hip hop to wrestling in a lot of ways, because we're playing characters that are an exaggerated version of our real self. It's just like in wrestling where they come out and pound their chest and, proclaim to the audience that they're the best, like we do the same in MCing. So, yeah, I mean, it goes hand in hand. So, like, having a name that's, like, rooted in my real name, but at the same time has an alias to it, like, that's how I'm able to weave in and out from reality to fiction.
Ain't nothing wrong with that, man. That's what keeps fucking life interesting. You know what I mean? Like, ain't nobody want no boring life and shit, and like, Word. Yo, shout out to MC Craig G. I see him in the building. Said something about Bitcoin. Yeah. Word. Yo, that's the perfect segue though. That track with you and Craig G was fire. Big Top Clown Circus, man. Fucking.
We got a video for that is actually dropping next week. That we put together. Yeah, Big Top Clown Circus featuring Craig G and DJ Danger on the cuts. And shout out to all the radio stations and DJs that have been going in on that record. That was a fun record to do, man. Like that was a lot of fun. And working with Craig is really easy. Like, he's a consummate professional, like rarely more than 2 takes in the booth.
Nice.
So,
well, he's a fucking legend. Word, you know what I'm saying?
100%.
Word, he a legend, man. He been doing this shit long enough to just, be able to, it flows natural and shit. But it was definitely a dope track though, man. Like the way y'all handled it and shit was fire, yo. Like I was digging it. Definitely. Just to hop right into that too.
What's that?
No, I was reading what he was texting.
DM selling NFTs in Guadalajara.
I seen your earlier post. Somebody was on your joint trying to, like, I don't know, promo that funny shit. You know what I mean? That fake shit. you telling them to stop being in your shit.
My whole life I have attracted weirdos. Like, long before the social media era, like, actually at the beginning of the social media era, back in the MySpace days, but like for some reason, weirdos always flocked to me for some reason. And so in the social media era, especially with a lot of bots, my inbox is kind of legendary because it's full of, some of the wildest stuff, everything from bots trying to get you for money to like radical, MAGA dudes in Oakley sunglasses and the American flag do-rag, like I get all kinds of weirdos, and part of the Jake Palumbo multiverse is the way that I kind of put these people on Front Street. And And I've been asked, like, as some of these posts start to grow, like people ask from time to time, like, "Yo, are you making these up?" And I'm not. And the thing was, like, if they were fake, I would do like 5 a week because those posts get some of the best engagement on the gram. But the thing is like not everybody gives me something that I can reply to cleverly. Like not everybody say something that I can think of a witty comeback that's going to be worthy of screenshotting and entertaining y'all with. So I just get them as they come, and sometimes they're worthy of putting on Front Street. But yeah, my inbox is legendary.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. Yo, definitely, that's a dope ass shirt too, man. That's perfect for the album.
Word, thank you, man. Plant-based
Word.
lip card.
You selling those shirts like they are on your website and shit.
This is actually a test run, but they will be available soon.
Yo, floss that shit, man. That shit look fresh as fuck. Yo, like word, man. Yo, definitely need to make them shit.
Word.
That shit is fire, man. I just had to mention that because it is on the new album and shit. For those that haven't heard it yet, it's on all platforms and shit too. Soy Boy with a gun. I was like, at first I'm like, yo, that's kind of hard to like, you know what I mean, roll off the tongue and shit. But I was digging it. So what was the whole like, you know what I mean, thing with that? Like, what made you want to make the title and the song for that?
Well, it kind of stems from the way that the album came together anyway, because a lot of the album was written back during the election season. And like I said, a lot of my social media posts, I had it seems like every time I stand up for any kind of basic human rights on the internet, it attracts a lot of detractors, and they're not Jake Palumbo followers usually. They're usually just, again, a swarm of weirdos that come from all places. But I spent a lot of 2020 in the election season getting called a libtard and, having all these people, I made a post one time criticizing Kyle Rittenhouse, and that got thousands of shares, and because of that, I got all kinds of these death threats from, all these lunatics on the internet. So in the midst of that, I started getting kind of aggressive and writing a lot of rhymes that, Plant-Based Libtard, up until the last song, is a very kind of aggressive and snarky album, and it was a lot of clapping back at a lot of things that I perceived as bullshit. But to answer the question with the soy boy with a gun, in the midst of arguing with a lot of these idiots, when people would find out that, I've been a vegetarian for a few years now, and they would call me a soy boy, in an attempt to kind of demasculinize me. And so with that said, my thing has always been like, anything you could possibly say about me, I've already said it about myself. And I've always found a way to flip it back. And so, like, yeah, if you're going to call me a soy boy, sure, but I'm a soy boy with a gun. And, it's kind of expressing both sides of me because, yes, I am a peaceful, plant-eating, live and let live kind of person. But, at the same time, I'm also a knucklehead from Tennessee who has a long fuse but a short temper. And so, that was just in the midst of one of those rhymes, I said the phrase soy boy with a gun. And when I was looking for it, because that song has no, and the wildest thing about that song is that's my most streamed song on Spotify. And there's no chorus. It's just one long 32-bar verse. But for some reason, that seems to be the joint that people liked. But yeah, so I just picked that line out of the rhymes and was like soy boy with a gun. And it went along with the plant-based libtard theme. And so, like, even going back to the plant-based libtard thing, like the album cover, like this is a real picture of me at like, age, I don't know, I'm 5 here, however old I am.
I was going to ask that too, word.
It's almost like by calling myself a plant-based libtard, by painting myself as softer, but then like I'm a kid with a fucking, yapper on his shoulder. I'm able to balance. I'm a Libra, like, I always have the scales. So I like to balance my peaceful, nerdy side with my, don't fuck with me side. And so that's all it is. But that's where those type of titles come from. Like all my song titles over the years, if you ever notice, like I've got a lot of bugged out titles for some of my stuff. That's just my weird brain. But that's kind of where like that came from, was just throwing it back at people, basically.
Let me ask you this question, yo. So you the spokesman for vegetarians?
No, I mean I'm not. Like I never try to sell my lifestyle on nobody else. You know, I can tell you why I think it benefited me. You know, because like, bro, I'm from Tennessee. Like I grew up in Tennessee, so like my heart beats fried chicken. You know what I mean? Like I didn't stop eating meat because I don't like hamburgers. You know what I mean? Like it was nothing like that. It was just, if you want to know the real unfiltered truth, I was smoked out of my gourd one day, and I was eating some chicken. And I don't know what happened, man. Like all of a sudden, I started like feeling like as if I could feel this chicken's fear and its pain, and it started bugging me out. And I didn't feel right eating the chicken. And the girl I was dating at the time had been a vegetarian for many years, and so I just slowly started doing it. And then when I did it, I felt better. Like I was less tired. I had more energy. Just like my health in general improved. And I found a lot of ways to eat good without killing nobody, you know. And that's why I don't claim vegan or nothing like that. Because, you know, like I'll still have ice cream and cheese from time to time and shit. You know, I don't drink milk. I drink almond milk. But I'm saying that to say, like, I can tell you the ways I think it benefited me, but I don't ever try to push that on nobody else. Like, however anybody want to do their diet, you know.
I was just fucking around and shit, you know what I mean? I just figured I kicked that out there and shit, 'cause you said the whole, you know what I'm saying? Like, you standing up for what you believe in and shit. And at the end of the day, that's what more people need to do, you know what I mean? 'Cause following trends and shit, try to be somebody you're not, all that shit don't last. It ain't long-term, short-term happiness, you know what I'm saying? So the fact that you're a vegetarian and you stand up for yourself, man, that's fucking dope. I gotta say that. Me personally, I love my meat, like no homo and shit, but at the end of the day, like, you know what I mean? I can see myself being in that lifestyle too, though, because it is definitely healthier for you and it definitely helps the brain, the body function better. So, I mean, I definitely respect people that can be able to do that type of shit. Somebody was asking if that helped you with your engineering for the Black Moon Records.
What's that, engineering the Black Moon Records? Oh, that was great. Like, you know, my relationship with the Beat Miners is one of my most cherished relationships in this whole music business. The way that came about, basically, they recorded the album in the building that my old studio was at in Manhattan. Like, I've been here in Brooklyn for about 5 years now, but the old building I was in Manhattan, my studio was in the basement, and on the 8th floor, my man Dan the Man's studio was up there. A lot of the Duck Down stuff was recorded up there. So they recorded the album up there with Dan. And then they were looking for a mix engineer to mix it. And what ended up happening was Evil D ended up being my DJ one night. There was a show at the Highline Ballroom. I was opening up for Cassidy, and Rusty Jux and a couple other people were on the show that night. But Evil D ended up being my DJ that night, and that got us in conversation again. And I ended up mixing the entire Rise of the Moon album. And, you know, it was just great because, you know, the Duck Down and Black, you know, Black Moon, Boot Camp Click, Helter Skelter, OGC, like all that stuff is some of my favorite music ever. You know what I mean? Like, you know, and I've been blessed to work with just about the entire camp because, you know, I mixed the Black Moon album. I did most of the engineering on Rockness solo album, Rockness AP. You know, I produced joints with Smith and Wesson. You know, Sean P, rest in peace, was on my Jake It Till You Make It album. Yeah, I did a whole album with Rusty Jux, Jake and the Jux Man in 2018. So I'm saying that to say that, like, working with all those boot camp guys is always a pleasure because it's some of my favorite music and they're great guys. The Doing the Black Moon album, though, really forged my relationship with the Beat Miners, and that's led to me doing a lot more work with them since then. I was in the lab with them last week, finishing up the Beat Miners album. They've got a great, it's similar to the other Beat Miner albums where it's compilation, with it's all Beat Miners beats with a bunch of different artists over it.
Mm-hmm.
But they got a dope new album that's just about ready to go. They went back and did a few tweaks to it, but yeah, that was dope. That was just a ill experience, and the relationship that I built with Evil D and Mr. Walt as a result of that was priceless. So no, that was real dope.
Yeah, of course. You to be able to work with legends like that shit and to be able to stand up to the bar and shit is awesome. I mean, definitely something to brag about. I mean, at the end of the day, and shit. But
got the vinyl on the wall up here. Like, yeah, it's definitely a highlight of my career.
That's what's up, man. Hell yeah. Definitely gotta, you know what I mean? You gotta floss off those type of achievements sometimes, man. Fuck being humble, you know what I mean? This game, humble only goes so far, you know what I'm saying?
For real, you gotta be your own, megaphone.
Mm-hmm. I actually got a question and shit, because you were referring to your ex, I mean your girl, at that current time when you were doing some of the project. So the last track on the plant-based joint, was that dedicated to her?
I would say 70% of the song is about her, yes. It's not entirely, the song is called A Lot to Unpack. And that's another one that, like, I didn't expect to get the response that I did off of it, because it was something that I just did at the time because I had to do it, because so many chaotic things were happening in my life at the same time. This long-term relationship was ending. My mom was getting ready to pass away. I had a friend on life support, all kinds of things were just happening. And I just kind of went in the lab and, spilled I don't always get that deeply personal in my music. And I just kind of did it because I had to do it, and I tacked it on to the end of the album, because the whole rest of the album is a hard, it's a much more aggressive upbeat listen. And so I just put that at the end because I kind of had to, but I'm saying that to say that, I'd say good 70% of the song is about, that breakup, but it was just really me capturing a moment in time. Like, that was one of the only times, and usually what happens is I make a beat, throw it into a pile, and then when I've got an idea for a song, I pick a track that works. That was maybe one of the only times that I made the beat and then sat down, wrote it, and got in the booth and did it all at one time. So I just kind of captured a moment of everything I was going through. And for some reason, it ended up being one of the most, the songs on the album that, just seemed to connect with people the most. And it
is what it is, man.
But at the same time, it's a little bit liberating because I'm like, okay, well, you know what? Fuck it then. Like, anything else that I've got bottled up in here, I'm just going to make a rap song about it. Because, not to trivialize it, but that song's got about 60,000 streams on Spotify, that song alone. And so it's it's not a lot of money, but it's it's turning my pain into profit. So, to some degree, I'm saying that to say, not that I make music for money. Obviously, I don't. If you've ever heard my music, clearly I'm not after commercial success. But my point is, though, is that it's liberating in that I feel a little more comfortable just talking about whatever's really on my mind, seeing that if I could be that vulnerable with people and people not laugh at me and and it really connect with people, then that's what's up.
I mean, to be honest with you, you're entitled to it. I feel like every artist is entitled to at least one personal joint. You know what I mean? Even if it's not on an album, at least a single site. But I am gonna say I am glad you kind of put it towards the end. Because if you did kind of stick it in the middle or in the beginning, you know what I mean? How am I going to go from slapping people in the face to all of a sudden I'm mad, you know what I mean? I'm sad and shit now. I don't know, man. That might have fucked me up in the head, but it was very unorthodox. I will say that, considering the fact that the whole rest of the album is very in your face. You know what I mean? You had a lot of nice jokes and shit. So I am glad, though, you did put that on there. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, you know what I mean? Like I said, everybody's entitled to that type of shit.
Yeah, no, that's something that definitely needed to be at the end. It's like if you've ever seen Boogie Nights, and you know the movie's going fine and it's all fun and games and partying, and then all of a sudden William H. Macy shoots his wife and
It's
himself,
like,
and then it's like,
man,
you know, it was kind of like that type of moment of like,
yeah.
you know, the party's over basically. But I'm a big believer in album sequencing. Like, I think that's a lost art that, like, something I've always tried in all my albums is to make sure that the sequencing is right. Because the album, to me, needs to kind of play sort of like a movie. In the way that a movie begins by setting the scene, you build up to a climax of the story, there's a conflict, and then there's a resolution, and then you take it home. Like, I think an album should play like that, too. You should start with your joints that set the tone, you know, your more concept type stuff, you know, it can go in the middle, and then if there's going to be an emotional, like,
Yeah.
that should be near the end, you know what I'm saying? So, like, and even with the Elder Sensei, with Solving Cases record, you know, that record has a definitive side A and side B, like, even on digital and streaming, but, you know, if you get the CD, even though it's a disc, you know, there is no side A and side B, but on the back of the album, it says side A and side B. Like, we picked that group of songs to go together, and the odd, like, just the ironic, we didn't plan it this way, but side A, tracks 1 through 7, are no features. It's just me and L. It's you know, it's L on the mic and me on the beat. Tracks 8 through 15 are all features. Like, all the songs that we had features on. So it's like half the album is no features, half the album is features. And so we didn't plan it that way, but it made a definitive side A and side B, to where it's like the first half is us getting the message across, and then side B is like we invited our friends over for a party. So I just think that's a lost art of, like, putting the album together start to finish, you know, to where it's a cohesive listen. Because when music consumption moved into the digital era, and people, you know, even as early as the iPod, you know, when people could scroll around and, you know, pick what order they wanted to listen to things in, or skip the track when they were halfway through it. Shuffle play and all that, like, that kind of, you know, the art of album sequencing got lost.
I mean, I'm kind of like that too. Like, I'm kind of like old school.
That's
like,
what,
you know, man, you can't, like, I don't want to hear two emotional tracks, then some fucking sped up shit, and then back to the sad. And it's like, it is kind of a cool concept to have the emotional roller coaster effect to an album, but playing it in the car with other people or blasting this shit, it is kind of frustrating, because you have that tendency to have to skip certain shit, because, you know what I'm saying, you're trying to be driving through the hood with the sad shit. Like, right. You want the bumping shit. You want that MOP feel when you in the whip. You want to, you know what I'm saying? Like, you want to be able to enjoy your ride and shit. Like, that's why most of us drive. We like to listen to the music and shit. So, I'm definitely old school with that shit. But yeah, I figured I had to ask. Like, I didn't want to bring up any bad vibes or any past. You know what I'm saying? I figured that.
I put it on an album. I mean, you know.
Shout out to the brother Elder Sensei too. When you said that shit in there, he's like, yeah, it's Elder Sensei's birthday, and I was like, oh shit. I'm like, yo, he actually put that in there. That shit, that was very ballsy. First off, second off, that was dope. I appreciated that you showed that kind of respect enough to mention that.
Well, I was painting a picture of what really happened. You know what I mean? Like that. So, you know, and I think something like, you know, that's just a line to, like, get your attention at the beginning, but it's also quite real. Like, that's legitimately what happened. So, yeah, you know, it's.
Yeah, I fucking
it's what it is, you know.
You know what I mean? I mean,
that's the beauty.
And I'm sure L appreciates it. You know what I'm saying? So it was dope though. I mean, like I said, it was unorthodox due to the whole entire other rest of the catalog was definitely in your face shit. So it was definitely unorthodox, but it definitely did hit a certain way when I listened to it, because it was like, been there, done that. You know what I mean? Been through those stresses, been through the breakup, been through all types of shit. So, you know, for anyone out there that's a fan of music as much as I am, love hip hop, it intertwines with your life. And so when I listen to tracks like that, it definitely takes me back. Like, yo, at least other people is going through the same shit I'm going through. You know what I mean? Like, that's a beautiful thing about hip hop. Everything is somewhat relative. You know what I mean? So I appreciate that track. Definitely appreciate that track.
Yeah, right.
Let me ask you this: you got a favorite
Word.
track off the album?
I don't like, that's like asking a person like their favorite child. You know what I mean? Like, I would say whichever song I had listened to the least at any given time, because the thing is like when I'm making an album, like in the process of making an album, I'm listening to it constantly. I'm just, I'm critically listening. I'm trying to figure out what I need to change, what I need to do better. Once the record is out, it kind of belongs to the world at that point, and I'm not, I may come back to it a year later or something like that, because I find that by not bumping my own music all the time, when I do hear it, I'm kind to it. Whereas, like, if I listen to my music all the time, I would start to be critical of it after a certain point, you know what I mean? But a point being is that, all those songs got their own story and their own reason for existing. Soy Boy with a Gun, of course, sets everything off, but, I really don't have a favorite. I'm just really, the thing I'm most happy with is that I was able to make an album that appears to have replay value, and that in 34 minutes, I was able to get 14 songs out. Which, technically 12 songs and 2 interludes, but still, 14 tracks out in 34 minutes. You know what I mean? And so, like, and the main feedback that I keep getting is, is the replay value and things like that. So, yeah, I don't know, man. I really don't have a favorite. Like, I'm glad they all exist and they all serve their own purpose.
Yes.
I'm bad at that question. Like, I don't really, I never know. Like, some of the songs that got, features on them too. Like, all the people that are featured on my albums are, people that I'm fans of and people that, I have good personal relationships with. And, I've never done records with people just to like try to rub off their buzz or anything like that. Like anybody that's ever been on one of my albums is somebody that like, I greatly appreciate their music and, and in most cases have worked with in some other capacity, whether it was on the beats or engineering or whatever it was. But, so some of those records were like I got to work with some of my bucket list MCs, obviously have a lot of, sentimental value, but it's really hard for me to pick favorite songs, because to some people, my quintessential record at this point might be $50 haircut to them, and that's great, but that like doesn't really sound like a lot of the rest of my catalog, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? So, it's all subjective, like, so I really don't pick favorites. I just try to, make records that all work together cohesively, because every album title is supposed to kind of summarize a theme. You know what I mean? So I just try to make records that fit within those parameters and, just do my best. But it's hard for me to
shout
pick
out to the Fair Jace one in the building. Oh, fucking
Shout out to Jace One. Speaking of unreleased records, I just knocked out an ill joint with Jace the other day, and
Peace to the family. Word, Shannon Gallows.
Shout out to
Creative Uses. Damn, that's some shit I want to fucking hear too, man. I can't wait to hear that shit.
Yeah, we that was just some spontaneous on the spot joint. We just all got in the lab and put the beat on, and because fun fact, our studios are neighbors. You know what I mean? So
nice.
Those are my people. So yeah, definitely. No, shout out. And speaking to, I can't say too much on it at the moment, but since we brought up Jace, I have got some dope records with Q Unique that the world will hear in some capacity in the foreseeable future. That's all I can say on that right now. But shout out to the whole
shout out to everybody tuned in as well, man. Yo, but to run back to backpedal right quick to the question I asked you, because me personally, I felt like Everything is blazing kind of stuck out to me a little bit more than some of the other joints, but just by a little, not like a whole.
I
You know
love
what I
it.
mean? Like not by a whole. Because if I had to say a personal favorite, probably a lot to unpack. Because like I said, it was relative. Something I could relate to. Something that everybody can fucking relate to. There's no way someone could legit be like, "Oh, I've been married with somebody my entire life," or "I've been happy my entire life," or "This." There's no one in this fucking world that can say that shit. So I definitely would have to pinpoint that one too. But everything is blazing. It was just something about it. Like I don't know why it just kind of stuck out a little bit to me and whatnot. So.
That was a dope record. I had that beat for a couple years actually. I maybe made that beat in
Mm.
2018, probably, give or take. Uh, and then just kind of didn't really know what to do with it. And then that track fit within the kind of aggressive, theme of the album. And so I was like, okay, I need to maybe finish this puzzle because that's a lot of music gets made that way. Sometimes I might just make a joint, lay one verse on it, and then it goes into, the pile for a while. And I may not come back to it for several months, but it will get completed later. And everything, it was kind of like that. Like I had that beat and had laid that verse for a little minute. And then it fit within the rest of the album. And so I was like, okay. And so, King Mag reached out to me out of the blue. I mean, I can't say out of the blue because, he and I have been friends on Facebook for a long time. And if you know Mag, he's a wild character. And, our senses of humor, he's just always been real cool to me. And so what had happened was I had done a remix for Mag. Mag had a record called Gun Charge. Came out a little while back, and I liked that record. And out of the blue, I did a remix and sent it to him. He's like, "Yo, this is fire, man!" Blah blah blah. And so, he was like, "Well, let me jump on the album." And so I put him on that record. And I was kind of stuck on the chorus. And so Lex the Hexmaster is somebody that I've been working with a lot lately. And he and I have an entire album together that's going to be coming out in the later part of this year. It's most of the way done, but I was engineering some of Lex's other stuff that he did with Magic Ninja up in Detroit, Twisted and them. And so he just jumped on the chorus. Like, it was kind of a thing of like he was just there in the studio and I was playing him that record. He was like, "Oh, it ain't got a hook. I got you." And so, he jumped on the hook and, and it was kind of cool because, like, that was just a real apocalyptic, the world is ending, everything is fucked, type of record. And, everything just fit together because Lex does a lot of real apocalyptic music like that. So he was able to capture that moment for the chorus. And then King Magnetic just got on there, was
His
like,
usual MO
his
and
usual
shit,
wild
word.
self. And, yeah, so that joint worked. Yeah, I definitely that is one
Yo,
of my
what happened
favorites
to I
on
don't
there
got
for
no
sure.
favorites though?
Well, I mean, since you mentioned that, I feel like every song is my favorite for some reason. You know what I'm saying? Like they've
Right.
all
I'm just
got my
fucking around
reasons.
though. I just had to push
But
some
no,
buttons real quick. He like, "Yo, I'm mad at this question." I'm like, "Yeah, but there
no,
is
you're
some
not
shit
wrong.
though, man." But it is a
You're
solid
not wrong.
album though. You know what I mean? Like you said, it does have replay value. So at the end of the day, it's like I really don't see someone really actually pressing the fast forward button or the skip button and shit. So it's like it definitely worked. And the beats on this were really kind of, you know what I'm saying? They were different for me personally because, like, I guess maybe I'm more into like the street shit slash like the Jedi shit, but the beats were kind of like
Yeah.
unique to me. Like, I don't know why I'm saying that, but it had like a flavor to it, like rockish, like a real funky style to it. And I noticed that with your other shit with Elder Sensei, and that's what made me a fan because I like the production value. You're not just making shit like everybody else. This shit is your own shit. So, like, I definitely wanted to pay compliments to that because that whole album was crazy. For those that, anybody in the chat room, if you heard the new album, man, like, let him know what you think. Like, you got any favorite tracks and shit, man, because it's definitely a good project, yo.
Thank you. Yeah, man. You know, beat wise, like I have such a wide set of influences that it's kind of a melting pot because, you know, my music is filed under boom bap, you know, East Coast boom bap, but like I pretty obviously you can tell by my accent, like, you know, I'm from the South. And so, you know, I do, you know, as in the same way that like I have deep reverence for the RZA and Pete Rock and DJ Premier and Large Professor and you know Madlib and all that, like I have an equal amount of reverence for Manny Fresh and DJ Paul and Juicy J from 3 6 Mafia and you know Ant Banks on the West Coast and you know things like that. So it's like you know I have such a melting pot of influences that, like, you know, it still tends to fall under the boom bap category, mainly because of the drums. Like, ultimately, the drums in a beat are kind of what determines is it boom bap, is it trap, is it, you know, fill in the blank. Because you can put any other type of music on top of, you know, a certain type of drums. But anyway, you know, it's kind of a melting pot. But it's just a wild set of influences, you know, where it's rooted in the boom bap and the samples and the hard drums, but at the same time, like my southern influences and the other regions, you know, they tend to flex their, you know, they flex themselves a little bit from time to time. So, and my stuff is a combination. Like I am a crate digger and a heavy, you know, sampler, and I take great pride in digging very deep in dollar bins and trying not to use records other people have used before and, you know, sampling off the wall stuff. But at the same time, like I do play, you know, my running joke is I play 6 instruments poorly, you know, because I'm not great at any one of them, but I can play a little bit of guitar, I can play a little keys, I can play a little bass. So it's like, and on Pro Tools, I only have to play it for 4 bars and then I can just loop it. And you know what I mean? So I'm saying that to say that I'm able to kind of combine those two worlds a little bit of like the samples and the live instrumentation. So you get
what program? What do you use to make your beats primarily? It's the Pro Tools.
It's a mixture of whatever mood I'm in at the moment. Sometimes I make beats on hardware like the MPC, or you know, I still have an ASR 10. I don't know if you can see it in the back corner there, but I still have an ASR 10. Sometimes I'll use hardware. Sometimes I'll make beats on Logic or Pro Tools. Sometimes I'll make beats on machines. Sometimes I'll make beats on Reason. You know, it just totally depends on where I'm going with it. Like if it's a sample I'm going to chop up and dice into little pieces, that I'm probably going to do on the MPC because, you know, it's easier for me to get to the finish line that way. Like, you know, to put it into pads and go bam, bam, bam. If it's something like where I'm going to be taking a loop and then playing on top of that, I'm more likely to do that in Logic or Pro Tools or something like that because it's just easier for me to get to the finish line that way. But it just depends on what inspiration strikes at the moment, you know, if I'm going to be playing or sampling and if it's chops or loops. And, you know, there's no one way.
The card, man. Definitely check out his new joint and shit.
Alucard, I was at his listening party the other day.
I was listening to that shit too.
Speaking of my neighbors, man, that's a fire album. They got some good stuff.
Definitely. Yeah, I mean, I figured I'd ask you about the whole production and shit because, you know what I mean? Like, I use different programs and shit like that myself, so it's like, but there is always that one program and that one machine that always makes things a little more easier for you, and then there's the other machine where it's just more creative juices can flow with it and shit. So, you know what I mean? I figured I'd ask you, what would you prefer to use if you was able to choose one?
If I was on an island, isolated from society, and I could only have a choice of one thing I could ever make beats on, and it could only be one, I would probably say Logic Pro 9. Not for any Logic users out there, not Logic X, Logic Pro 9. I would say 50 or 60% of my beats from the last 10 years have came from that. Now, I've not made as many beats on Logic 9 in the last few years because I got the MPC Renaissance. I'm making beats on Pro Tools now. Like a lot of, I've not done it as much, but in terms of like being the most complete workstation of being able to combine sampling and MIDI instruments, if I was stuck with one, it would probably be Logic. I could accomplish everything I needed to on Logic. Now, I wouldn't want to work that way. You know, I've even made beats like at home. I have an old PC from 16 years ago that still runs that has Fruity Loops 3 on it, like long before it was called FL Studio. But, you know, there's something about the time stretching in Fruity Loops 3 that's actually pretty dope. And so, like, occasionally I'll take loops out of Pro Tools and time stretch them in that old Fruity Loops just to get that little grit and pitch shift, you know, that it does. And then export that back out and then make the beat however I'm going to make it. But, you know, there's no... For chops, there's no substitute for the MPC. You know, the pads are, you know, if you're doing heavy chops, there's no substitute for the MP. I would say something like Logic is the most complete workstation for me, but I like having access to, you know, whatever I feel like it.
I mean, I'm still running off FL Studio 9, so you know what I mean?
Well, you know, all my year, like in this entire studio, you know, I'm still running Pro Tools 10. My main studio computer runs like Mac OS Lion or Mountain Lion or something like that. Like it's like 7 OSs ago. You know, I'm saying that to say that, like, you know, I'm a firm believer that, you know, it is not the gear, it is the operator. You know, you can give somebody that knows what they're doing a very minimal, outdated setup, and they'll be able to rock with it. Whereas you could give somebody who doesn't know what they're doing a $1 million studio with all the equipment, vintage everything, and all that, and, you know, they're not going to be able to, you know, to get a good sound with it. So I'm a firm believer in if it's not broken, don't fix it. And, you know, a lot of the music that I work on, you know, is done with stuff that is not up to date and state of the art, but, you know, we get the sound that we want out of it.
I mean,
so
I
that's all
came
that
from
matters.
the Casio keyboard, and I was making beats off the music generator, the PlayStation. You know what I mean? With little CD burner and shit. So I know what it's like to be outdated. You know what I mean? I still rock. Like I said, FL Studio 9, man. I don't know about all this new fancy shit and plugins, and I'm cool with what the fuck I got, yo. So I'm comfortable with it. So yeah, it makes it fun. You know what I mean? I definitely agree with you on that shit. I was gonna ask you the same kind of question with the Solving Case album, like, but I know since you already said you don't really have a personal favorite and shit, I know that was for that album because that was all you as an MC. Now switching back to Elder Sensei as the MC, like, did you have a favorite for that album since it wasn't just you rapping on it?
You know, it's the same thing of, like, you know, they're all my favorite for their own reasons. But I think if you had to put one song in a time capsule, you know, to represent what that album was about, it would either be Blast Off or Rule and Rock. You know, both of which have music videos out. My personal favorite, like, if you really held the gun to my head and was like, what's your favorite? I would say it's probably Bring It In Loud featuring John Robinson. Because, like, so much attached to that song. That song was the first time I ever met John Robinson. And if you know JR, he is just a great individual. You know, a quietly vicious MC, and just a great human being. But that was the first night I met JR. Now, the fun fact, and let this go to show, you know, if there's any artists listening right now, that there really is no expiration date on music, because Bring It In Loud was recorded the day after Pumpkinhead passed away in 2015, like PH had just passed. And so me, JR, and El Sensei were in the studio reminiscing, you know, and whatnot. And, you know, I didn't know PH as well as some people did, but when I first moved to New York from Tennessee, the first show I ever did was, you know, when I got up here, was opening for Pumpkinhead in, I want to say it was Elmwood Park, New Jersey. But we were sitting in the studio reminiscing about PH, and me and El were already a couple songs into the album. Like, it wasn't Solving Cases yet, but we just were making an album. And so we played JR a couple joints, and then he was like, well, let's do something. And so we laid that song, and then that was in 2015. You know, Solving Cases came out in 2021. So to explain the 6-year gap, basically, was, you know, Elle and I both were working on 50,000 different things. Like, you know, pre-pandemic, Elle was touring the globe. You know, he was all over, literally all over the world, you know, doing shows, both solo and with the Artifacts. I mixed and mastered. He had to do the album with Sadat X, the XL record. I put out 2 solo albums in that time, Jake Until You Make It and the 100,000 Air Hobo. Elle did the album with Tony Galvin. We mixed the Artifacts album, which is still not out yet, but we did mix the Artifacts album. And so, saying all that to say, we were just working on Solving Cases whenever he and I both had free time. And, you know, any time we had free time, we were volunteering it to that album. So, to bring us to present day, when the album came out, we flew to Atlanta because JR lives in Atlanta now. And it was one of those things of, like, rather than trying to hire cameramen and send footage and do all that, it was just easier to fly to Atlanta for a day, shoot the video. We rented this ill space in DGB Studios down in Atlanta. It had the ill backdrop. And, you know, and so it was just, it ended up being much easier to just fly to Atlanta, shoot the music video there, and then go back to New York, because we had to maintain our release schedule, because we were on 4-week increments trying to drop 3 singles leading up to when the album came out, you know, and those all had to go on 4-week things. So I'm saying all that to say that when that single dropped, everybody assumed that that song was brand new. No one had any clue that it was recorded in 2015. So if you don't timestamp your music, you know, if you're not like, yo, son, it's 22, kid, you know, if you're not directly timestamping your music, you know, that music is brand new to anyone who's never heard it. And a lot of times as artists, you know, if our release schedule gets delayed or something like that, we start to think of music as being old. When in reality, you know, that music is brand new to anyone that's never heard it. And as long as it's made in a timeless manner where it's not time-stamped, like I said, we had a great run with a brand new single that was actually recorded 6 years ago. So, you know, I'm just, you know, just let that be
it's perfect. There's perfect definition behind it. I mean, because at the end of the day, you're right, though. I mean, if you don't timestamp the shit, you can show it to someone brand new years from now, and they'll automatically assume it's new. And that's perfect. It's a perfect feeling, because as soon as somebody automatically assumes something is old, the first thought is going to be, do I even want to be nostalgic?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Do I even want to bother? So it's like, I definitely agree with you on that. The video was dope, too, man. Definitely the video was dope. Me and El was talking about that in the previous interview me and him had and shit, about how y'all just hopped right off it was the one where y'all just hopped right off the train and just started shooting this shit, right? That's what that's one of the ones you was talking about in Atlanta, or was that a different video?
That might actually be the video for Blast Off. He was at the train station in the Blast Off video, and then the other part was in the piano room. Bringing It Loud video, we went down to DGB Studios. DJ Burn 1 actually is the one who directed that video, but they had an ill setup with a lot of great backdrops and stuff to film in, and we had a bunch of cool cameos in there. Shabam Sadiq pulled up, Star pulled up, J Live pulled up, Indigo Phoenix, a bunch of people pulled up to, to be in the video. But that was a lot of fun. We basically were in Atlanta for 24 nonstop hours. Like, shot the video, did radio, we were going and going, and then back on the plane, So yeah, I would say I actually maybe do have a personal favorite, and that would be Bring It In Loud. But I think maybe the best representative of that album would be either Blast Off or Rule and Rock, which Rule and Rock got a video too, directed by Doom the Wiz. We're dropping 2 more videos off the album at the very least, because Thoughts Combined is already filmed. It just needs to be edited. And then we're probably going to do a video for the title track for the song Solving Cases.
Yeah,
on
some, man.
some
that track is
stuff.
fucking fire, yo. Like, I know it's the obvious title track and shit, and it's obvious, you know what I'm saying, but it's just, I like the beat to it. I loved everything about it. So, like, it was definitely a good track, you know what I mean?
That beat is sample free too.
That's
that's
crazy,
me on the Moog keys. Like, that's
you got one hell of a talent, man. Because you know what I mean. A lot of producers can do one or the other. To really have somebody be able to bring in guitar sounds from outside of sampling, and pianos and shit. You said you made that shit from scratch. It's fucking amazing. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, one of the blessing in disguise basically was growing up in Tennessee where there really wasn't shit to do. And, if you didn't find something to keep yourself occupied, you were going to get into trouble pretty quick. So, as a kid, my mom and dad had a big record collection, and I was always fascinated by the records and putting the records on and dropping the needle and reading the back and looking at who the musicians were and all that stuff. So from a small child, like, I was already kind of being groomed as a crate digger. But then again, going back to needing something to occupy myself, I was so obsessed with music, and my father had some musical ability. He played guitar and keys, and my younger brother is a virtuoso guitar player and guitar teacher, so he it runs in the family to some degree, but with that said, like, I just had instruments around as a kid, like, and, all that kind of combined to where, like I said, I'm not great at any one particular instrument, but, like, I can pick up about any instrument and make it do something.
Yeah.
And, like I said, now that we got Pro Tools, as long as I can play it right for, like, 4 bars,
I was just saying, you got a guitar on the wall and shit, yo. I hope you at least know how to play sight. Because, you know what I mean? Awkward as fuck, people walk in your studio like, yo, that's a nice guitar. You play? Like, okay. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no.
I mean, me personally, I like the last laugh on that shit. And I fucking posted some shit earlier with the Inhale shit. I was telling the Elder Sensei I love that shit too. The beat behind it, the feel behind it. So,
word. Yeah, that I had made that joint, and it was funny because L brought it up. He was like, "Yo, we should put," when he started writing verses about weed. He was like, "Yo, it would be ill if we had that Q-tip thing." And so I was like, "Hold on a second," and I just went over here to my crate. And, sure enough, I had the 12-inch, and so we just went from there. But no, that was fun. Like, making that entire record was just a lot of fun. Like, the creative process was completely stress-free. Like, Elle and I really didn't clash creatively at all. And, Elle's such a great guy. Like, to know him is to love him. Like, he's just a great dude, and, our chemistry in the studio musically has just, always been very effortless. You know what I mean? Like, we don't have to go back and forth. Usually the beats he ended up picking would usually be like the first or second, third beat I played for him. Like, usually we didn't have to go too far down the list. Like, we'd be at like the second or third beat. He'd be like, yeah, that one. So yeah, no, making that whole record was very, very painless.
Yeah, shout out to Elder Sensei once again. Yeah, he definitely he a good dude, man. He's definitely an anime lover. I'm not sure if you into the whole anime shit, but this man has catalogs of that shit. Like, I'm like, damn.
They'll know a lot more about that than I do. Like I like some of it, but like I can't
Yeah.
even
I mean,
compete
this
with
man,
his
like we was
knowledge
talking about,
of it.
was watching this shit without the sub and without the dub. So he was pretty much watching it in a foreign language with no subtitles. Like, you know what I mean? You can't get more of a fan than that. I mean,
Right.
that's crazy, yo. Um, but with that being said, also, like, I'm pretty sure you at least you sample anime and shit though too, though, like Japanese culture, the music stuff.
Actually, oddly enough, I'm not gonna snitch on myself as to what track and what sample, but my upcoming album with Lex the Hexmaster, I sampled the anime soundtrack from '83. That's as far as I'll go. I sampled
See,
the
now you
anime
gonna make me go on
soundtrack
that
from
IBM
'83.
shit or whatever.
But no,
Word.
great
That's
music.
crazy though. Yeah, I figured I'd ask that shit because you a crate digger.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, the anime is not usually, and from what I've noticed, anyways, like it's not everybody's crate. Like, I guess maybe because it's slowly coming back in and whatnot, but because you got producers like Kyo Itachi and shit that uses like specific like an anime style background and shit. So that's why I
Right.
figured I'd ask if you had some of that in your crate too, because I noticed a lot of your shit is from what I've noticed anyways. From my perception, was a lot of jazzy shit, a lot of funky shit. Like, you know what I'm saying? So I figured I'd ask, like, were you into the whole anime shit, because they got a huge market with the fucking soundtracks and the samples.
Yeah, no, they definitely have got great music in them a lot of times. And, you know, soundtracks, period, have always been a heavy part of my crates because, you know, movie soundtracks are kind of almost the secret weapon of sampling because so much of the music on movie soundtracks out, you know, as long as you don't sample the main title theme or, you know, something that's like connected to that, you know, the album cuts on movie soundtracks are usually gold mines because A, the music is made to be cinematic, you know, because it's made for a movie. And B, it's easier to sample and fly under the radar with because, like, people are not going to necessarily always recognize that this is a slowed down loop of, like, this background music from the movie Ishtar. You know what I'm saying? Like, a lot of times it's hard to connect the dots on what you're sampling there. So that's why movie soundtracks have always been a gold mine. And, like, whenever I go digging in record stores, I'm always combing through the soundtracks, you know, probably first. Just because, like, there's so much undiscovered gems in there that a lot of people are not gonna, because that music's on the album right there for you to sample it, but when it's in the movie, it's low in the background. So people don't always necessarily connect that's where that came from. So it's a lot easier to fly under the radar
I
when
definitely, I
sampling that
definitely agree with
stuff.
that.
So
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, I figure I like to build and politic with other producers because a lot of my shit was mainly anime, and, like you said, movie soundtracks and shit like that. I love the jazz shit too, but I just found more interest in the horror themes and all that other shit. So I figured I'd ask, like, what was your crazy be looking like type shit?
my crates are a mixture. I mean, it's funk, it's jazz, it's rock, it's soul, it's movie soundtracks, it's you know, like I said, I'm a dollar bin dude. So, like, I'll get the most, like, random ukulele record or something like that, or, you know, just something that, like, nobody's ever gonna touch because, like, it doesn't look like it's a cool record. You know what I mean? Like, and so a lot of times, like, I'll find just, you know, wild random stuff on there.
Yeah, you said
And, you know,
ukulele.
stuff that's not got 50 entries on
Yo,
the
I would love
sample,
to
you
hear a
know.
ukulele beat.
So,
Because, you know what I mean? Just sitting there thinking about the instrument in general is like, how the hell would you fit that into a beat and make that not sound like, you
right.
know what I mean? Some pop shit. It sound like that. Like,
Yeah, I even sample not for nothing. You know, I even sample older, not newer stuff, not contemporary stuff, but I sample a lot of older country records sometimes too, because of my southern, you know, roots. I like to take country sounds and put them over boom bap drums. Like, a lot of the core of my sound is kind of based around that to some way, and taking music that has a country twang to it, slowing it down and putting it under, you know, with boom bap drums, you know what I mean? And so I even sometimes find ill loops on country records. Like there's a lot of, you know, stuff like, you know, I don't know, I'd have to think on it, but, you know, I've got a lot of records that are like that. But yeah, that just goes to say that, you know, you can find good sample fodder anywhere. Like, and that's the dope thing about sampling is that, you know, you're not limited in any way. You know, the most random weirdo, like, what is this record, might have something
you ain't lying, man.
on it.
I mean, sometimes them weird sounds make the best records. You know what I'm saying? You'd be surprised. Straight up.
Absolutely. I've gotten sounds off of like little, you know, comedy records and sound effects records. Like, you know, don't sleep on those either. Like sometimes those even have, you know, loops on them even, you know, because sometimes there's little interlude music in between the comedy. You know, there might be stuff on there. I wish I had as much time as I used to have to go through like entire records because, you know, the best samples can be hiding in places. Like there might, you know, 3 minutes into the song, there might be this wild turnaround that you're only going to hear if you listen 3.5 minutes into the song. But the thing is I don't have as much free time as I used to because I've got so much going on with everything else that, you know, now when I go record shopping and I'm dropping the needle on the groove, it's like it's got to hit me right away. I got to be like, yes, you know, almost kind of instantly. Because I don't have as much time to sit and like listen through the nuances. So the way I've tried to work around that is by like almost using like if I've got a record or whatever and I don't have time to like really go through the whole thing, I'll find it on Spotify and put it on in the car like on my drive to the studio. And then that way, if a break catches me or something like that, you know, I'm gonna catch it, and then I can make a note, yo, when I get to the studio, sample that and stuff like that. So I'm trying to make up in that approach, but I do miss the days of just like having mad free time to where I could just like sit and go through the whole record, and like you do tend to excavate a lot more sample material that way. Because usually when you're just dropping the needle, you know, you're listening to the first 4 bars, or, you know, if the intro doesn't catch you right away, then, you know, you may skip on to the next record. But 3 minutes into the song, there might be some ill break or a turnaround or something like that that you might miss. So
I'll be doing that shit too. You know what I mean? In my line of work, FedEx and shit, I'll be having to fucking just, you know, the long ass drive. So I'll be throwing out samples like, yo, let me listen to this whole shit. Yeah, you're right. You find some ill shit. You even find some shit like all the way at the end. You know what I mean? So if you only listen to the beginning, you miss that whole fucking end. The end can have the illest fucking switch up you ever heard.
That's what I mean. There could be a whole beat waiting there, but, you know,
of course.
You might miss it.
While we still on that subject, you got like a favorite movie and shit that you something you would watch on a regular basis?
I have favorites. I would say, you know, if you held a gun to my head, my favorite movie of all time is probably Pulp Fiction. It just covers the most bases of comedy, drama, action, and dialogue. I think it's kind of like the perfect blend of all of those. Shawshank Redemption is a favorite of mine. What else? I'm drawing a blank right now. I've got a lot of favorites, you know.
Now, you gotta ask that. You know what I mean? Get a little into the head of Jake Palumbo. You know what I mean? Like see what makes you tick. It kind of makes sense now. You know what I mean? Pulp Fiction. You're right. Like it's the perfect storm and shit because it just has everything covering everything. And it's not like it's just random bullshit thrown together. It's one of, you know what I mean? Yeah, that shit is crazy.
Well, yeah, you know, life is a mixture of comedy, drama, danger, and, you know, all that. So it kind of encompasses all that into one movie. I would say Pulp Fiction and Shawshank Redemption are my 2 favorites, but I've got a lot of other favorites. I'm bad at naming stuff on the spot. I always draw a blank. I've got 500. I have actually 500 favorites that I could discuss at length.
Yeah.
somebody asked
I
me,
mean,
I'll
like
be
I
like,
said, man, I'm gonna try to keep you on your
you know,
toes a little bit and shit. You know what I mean? Like Saturday night and shit. Get this
right.
entertainment shit flowing and shit. Definitely, man. If you had a like, who do you see yourself working with in the future that you haven't already? Like, you have like a bucket list.
A lot of my bucket list, I am blessed to say I've worked with. I would say because like, you know, Sean Price, Rock
Mm,
Marciano, Royce the 5'9", Sadat X, Smith and Wesson, like so many of my favorite MCs, like I've gotten to be on songs with. Um, Razkaz, Twister, like, so many of those people. But um, in terms of people that I've not been able to work with, I do still have some bucket list in terms of my biggest influences because, like, I've been able to work with most of my favorite contemporary rappers, but a lot of my biggest influences, like Redman, for example. Redman is, maybe my favorite rapper of all time, and the MC that taught me really how to use comedy and still be, ill with it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I got my comedic thing from Redman. I would say
mm,
Sticky Fingers from Onyx is big on my bucket list because Sticky is who taught me how to use anger and aggression and to, let all, whatever I want to scream about, like,
mm.
I learned that from Sticky. I have produced a joint that Cool Keith was on, but I would love to do a song rhyming with Cool Keith because Cool Keith is who taught me how to be a weirdo or how to let my weirdo side show and to be unapologetic about it and to just say whatever is on my mind and I don't care if you get it or not. I would say Jadakiss. I've worked with Jadakiss as an engineer, but like doing a song, with Jadakiss, that really taught me about being precise and technical with your bars and like making sure like every lyric counted and that you were really saying something hard and precise. And then 5, I would say Ghostface Killer because going back kind of to the same reason I consider Cool Keith a big influence. I've always loved Ghost wordplay and like Ghost's whole thing of like, I don't care if you know what I'm talking about or not. I know what I'm talking about. And, I don't care if you don't know what 8 ravioli rap shit is ziti. Like, I don't care if you don't know what that means. I know what it means and it sounds ill to me and it means something to me. Like, I've always loved how Ghostface is unapologetic about, this is my poetry and this is how I say it. You can interpret it however you want, but I'm saying it because it means something to me. So I would say those 5 out of my bucket list that I've not got to work with yet. I would say those 5. But I have a few Southern heroes too that I would like to work with. I'd love to do a song with Bun B from UGK. I think he is a really underrated lyricist and probably the best pure lyricist in the South. I'm a big fan of Project Pat. Sometimes I just want to hear, something to ride to and, hear about wig splitting and head busting. I'd love to do a song with Project Pat, the Tennessee connection. But yeah, I would say that's my bucket list of people I've not been able to work with. But like I said, I consider myself highly blessed to and there's a much more lengthy list of that list was just people I've got to rhyme alongside. But like, there's a much more lengthy list of artists that either as a producer or an engineer that I've gotten to cross paths with. And like that, is a big validation, you know what I mean? Like, because I'm a fan first and, I got into this mess of the music business because I'm a fan and because, I've got such a sincere and earnest appreciation, for this hip hop shit, and the art of it and the people that do it. And so, yeah, my main thing is that like, even with this many years in, like I'm still constantly meeting new people and interacting with people that I've never got a chance to meet or work with. And so I feel like there's still a lot more work left to do. And so, you know, I'm excited about that. You know, who knows who I'm gonna end up working with, but definitely that's on some of my wish list.
Solid background, man. I mean, to be able to engineer for Jadakiss and everything you just mentioned, that alone is a bucket list in general. You know what I'm saying? Because even if you didn't get to rhyme with them, still, you got to be in their presence. You got to be involved, and that shit is huge. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's wild. I mean, for a kid from Tennessee, like it's kind of, you know, it's kind of crazy sometimes, but you know, it all stems from the love, because the love of doing this is what made me put the work in. You know what I mean? To survive this long, you know, because so much of this music business is just staying the course and eventually outlasting everybody, you know, who drops out along the way. So I'm saying that to say that, like, you know, if it was about the money, you know, and mind you, you know, I work hard to make a living, and I'm very much focused on financial independence. But, you know, if this were about the money, like, I would have quit over a decade ago. You know what I mean? Like, so I'm saying that to say that at the end of the day, like, I feel like all my opportunities and all the things that I've been able to do have been a reward for the work that I did out of an earnest, you know, love, you know, for doing.
I mean,
you know what I mean?
that's dope though. That you're still a fan though. I mean, you know what I'm saying? 'Cause with your rank in this game and shit, you can easily be ego tripping. You can easily be shut down, this and this and that, but you're not. Like you're still a fan. You still appreciate the artist. You make sure you work with them in a certain way, so that's not just like, oh, I'm just grabbing them because they the new shit. You know what I mean? Like you're grabbing who you're a fan of, who you appreciate. And that shit, that's what makes hip hop a beautiful thing. Like just like with these interviews, I get to talk to people, I get to build with people. I'm loving it. You know what I'm saying? Because that's a part of hip hop, man. If you take the fun out of hip hop, it's the fucking point of doing it. Like, I mean, just to be real, you can make a living off of it. I mean, if that's what your goal is to be. But I'm pretty sure all of us started, and it's probably still at this point where it's like, yo, this is a beautiful thing. It's fucking music, man. Like hip hop connects everything, connects worlds and shit. So, you know what I'm saying? Like that's how I look at it.
Right. Well, and the thing is too is, you know, people are not going to want to do business with you long term, you know, if you're an asshole. And, you know, that's the one thing. It's like, you know, there is no employment security at this. You know, I was talking about this actually earlier today with my man J57, is that there's no employment security in this except the work that you do today. Because, like, okay, I've been doing this for 14 years now. Like, in hindsight, I have a job and a career and a lengthy discography and all that. I have no idea what my future holds more than, say, 3 months into the future. So, like, in the music business, there is no real job security. So the only job security you have is the work that you do today. So I'm saying that to say that the work I'm doing today, I have to focus on that and making sure that those people have a good experience. Like the people that came to my studio today to record got to bop out of here, and, you know, with their work done the way that they wanted. The interview that I'm doing with Supreme, I got to be here at 8 o'clock, you know, ready to talk. And, you know, I'm not showing up at 8:15, like, you know, and stuff like that. So I'm saying that to say that establishing your dependability is your only job security, you know, in this business. And so that's what I really just try to do, you know, in whatever capacity somebody works with me, whether it's me in the studio, whether it's me doing a verse for somebody, selling a beat online on the internet, whether it's me doing an interview, whether it's me pulling up to your show, am I on time for sound check? Am I, you know, is my merch table neatly, you know, to the side of the stage? Am I being friendly with the venue owner and the bartender? Like, all these things matter because, you know, the music business is a relatively small group of people. And, you know, everybody does tend to, yeah, when I first moved to New York, I thought it was this vast sea of people, of tens of thousands, when in reality, you know, it's the same couple thousand people. they just shuffle around to different situations, and everybody pretty much knows everybody. And it doesn't behoove you to be difficult to work with. And that's really your only security, to make sure that you're still going to be around tomorrow and that people are going to still care. Like, did I give you a good experience? And that even trickles down to your audience. Like, I try my best. Obviously, I'm known for feeding the trolls and, you know, engaging fuckery, because that's part of how I entertain my crowd. But, you know, it's something as simple as answering people's comments. Like, if somebody takes the time to go in my comment section and say, yo, Jake, the album is fire, or whatever it is, you know, I might be busy that day. It might be 6 hours later or something like that. But it takes 2 seconds for me to like the comment and click back with the little fist in the air emoji and the prayer hands and the 100. Like, and to acknowledge them and let them know that I appreciate that, because my whole career, I've never had any kind of machine behind me. You know, I mean, a few years ago, we did partner with Soul Spasm Records, and they've been a great help in, you know, helping move the Space Lab machine along. But I've never had any kind of machine behind me. Like, I've always just picked up a few fans at a time across a number of years. So I'm saying that to say that, you know, that has to be cultivated. And I've got to, you know, make sure that I'm not Hollywood with those people. You know, I may miss people's messages sometimes, because I do get 500, you know, weirdo DMs and stuff like that. But, you know, taking time to engage with the people that are taking the time to engage with you, especially if you're an artist on the come up, is, even if you're not an artist on the come up, even if you're a veteran and been doing this for years, like, there's no guarantee that they're still going to care about your music a year or two from now, or whenever. So it's just like being a politician. You have to go out and shake hands and kiss babies and you know, and meet with the people.
That's something that's definitely, it's important, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you don't give back, especially when you were blessed with so much, you know what I mean? It does make you look like a dick, straight up and down. And I'm not one to hold my tongue either. I don't believe in ass kissing and all that funny shit. But I do believe in opinion is a part of who you are. It's a part of your character. So, you know what I'm saying? When you listen to music, it also shows your character in a way, too. So why not give back? You know what I mean? Like, all them big names and shit, it can be famous. It don't fucking matter. None of that matters. Because at the end of the day, if someone likes your shit, yeah, it does. It takes 2 seconds, you know what I mean? Click the little like button or whatever it is, and, you know, show some support and shit. So I agree with that. I'm a fan before anything. You know what I mean? Like, I might, you know what I mean, be cool with people and whatever, but I'm a fan. Like, if I don't like some shit, I'm going to be like, yo, that's not it. You know what I mean? I'm not feeling that, this and that. I might get booed. I might get kicked out the fucking studio, but it is what it is. I mean, would you rather a fucking yes man, or would you rather the realness? You know what I'm saying? Like, so I'm definitely a fan too, man. I appreciate, like I said, I listened to both albums and shit, and I was impressed. I was impressed because, like I said, I'm used to the street shit. I'm used to the punchline. Everything's a punchline shit. And then there's Jake. You in the middle because you have both sides of the spectrum. So it's like it was dope to listen to, man. I was actually impressed. Like I said, like, I also listened to the beats first though. Like, I am you know what I mean, held accountable for that. So the first couple of seconds are kind of off. It kind of throws me off, and it's like I don't know. Do I want to listen to this shit? Like 5 seconds in, the intro's weird. But you know, but when listening to the beats, the drums, like I was telling L this shit too. I was like, about your drums, man. Your drums are fucking heavy as fuck, man. Like they just straight slap. So that definitely is, yeah, it's dope the way you construct it.
Well, you know, the thing is in a lot of those beats, a lot of times, you know, people will either just program drums or just use a break beat. And, you know, if I should maybe do a video one day and go over some of the different layers, like in a lot of those beats, there might be 2 to 3 different break beats playing at the same time, and as well as programmed drums on top of that. You know, because the thing is a lot of times because I was a drummer as a kid, you know, one of the real aspects that makes great drumming great is what they call the ghost notes or the grace notes. It's basically those little shuffle notes that come in between the ones, the twos, the threes, and the fours. And so if I've got a break beat, and I dig hard on my breaks too, like, I mean, I'm not just looping up Impeach the President and Substitution, even though those are both great break beats. I dig very wide and deep for my breaks, but I may have 2 to 3 different breaks playing at the same time to have one break doing the have that covered, and then another break under that doing the shuffle. The ghost notes that gives it a slightly different groove. And then I tend to program on top of that just to strengthen it. So, I mean, drums are the foundation of hip hop. And, it's something that actually, maybe it's because I have so much experience as a drummer in the past, but I kind of do drums last because drums are the easy part to me. The music is where it's challenging. The music is where I've got to think about it a little bit. You know what I mean? And is this going to be a sample? Is this going to be played? Is this going to be both? Is it blues? Is it funk? Is it rock? Is it electro? Is it soul? What's going on here musically? That requires a little more effort up here. The drums, once I hear it, I'm like, okay, boom, boom, ching. And I do what I do. But to your point about the drums, I really am into my layering, because that's another thing too. A lot of times, even as an engineer, when I get clients, everybody naturally wants their drums to sound very big. And a lot of times, if you just have one kick drum and just have one snare drum and just have one hi-hat, there's not always enough room to get everything as large and wide sounding as you need it to, because some kicks give you punch and some kicks give you boom, and then some snares give you crack, and then some snares give you body. You know what I mean? So a lot of times, it's not even just EQing a sound more, it's layering a different sound underneath that. So I'm very conscious about layering my drums and making sure that, there's a lot going on.
Yeah, I definitely do that too. So I'll take some loop or some shit, build under it, build on top of it. You know what I mean? Trim, grab some other shit. I used to do that on my samples too. You know what I mean? A lot of people be lost in translation and shit when I try to show them my breakdowns and shit, because I'll just take 5 different samples from 5 different songs and just combine the shit, and it would just be wow. You know what I mean? So I love layering, yo. But your drums, we was talking about that too. I was saying you had some break beats and you layer and shit, and you can hear it. You could definitely hear it. You could tell it's you took some shit and then you made it into your own shit. So it's you know what I mean? That's not even just a producer in me talking. In general, as a fan, you can definitely tell there's something about them drums. So, you know what I mean? So I definitely appreciate that. I'm pretty sure everybody's a fan of your shit. Appreciate that, man.
Word, man. I appreciate that. Good looks.
So I was gonna ask you this question. I know it's kind of on the scene and shit, but would you be down to drop some bars and shit?
Do we have a beat?
I mean, if you want to throw a beat on the background and shit, I'm all for it.
Yeah, why not? Let's see. Yo, Jake Palumbo, Supreme the Almighty. I spit 5-syllable words in an Appalachian accent. Backpack rappers smack backwards like a backspin. I smoke a quarter, get a nickel back. Atypical white guy, can't stand Nickelback. Pickled in the club, intervented Kelly Hansen. Virgin in the telly, getting fetty, Richard Branson. I'm slightly Manson, dollar store vitamins. Pass my urinalysis with flush-free niacin. My PO was a college-age female. 5 years later, got a friend request with details. She liked my first CD, Future Dead Rapper. I'm a maniac in the crew of head clappers. I'm on fire. You on the laptop. I'm on the clock once my Tim's hit the blacktop. I like revenue, pursuing my passion. You pursuing stupid writing checks and can't cash them. You want to holler, what's up? I always pay extra for the bottomless cup. I'm the hood politician, the tenement wizard, smoked out in the lab with the vintage Atari 2600 to control a pole position. Still get the chickens in a triple pole position. If we don't cut, I got nothing but my money. So on second thought, my plan B is still lovely. To take my Eva to the Garden of Eden, put my iron in a butterfly, in the Garden of Davida. Hip-hop ain't dead, but I just ain't signed the lease yet because I'm in bed. The #1 contender for the #1 spot. My apologies, I'm Jake Palumbo, you're not. In second place, first loser, first-class rapper, but a better producer.
Yo, yeah, man, I like that shit, man. That shit was dope. I like that. I like the comedy in your shit too, man. Like, you got some shit, and it,
well, I mean, I got a bugged out sense of humor, man. I laugh about a lot of weird shit, and you know, it just kind of like the thing is like rhyming is like one of the most pure forms of expression that like you got to. That's your time to be like the most unfiltered version of yourself that you want to be. So you might as well make the most of it. So yeah, I'm very much like you know. I'm definitely writing to please me. Like anything I say in a rhyme, like I've cracked myself up with it, and I'm like, yeah, that's it. You know what I mean? So it's
that's
just my
that shit was tough, man. That beat was fire too, though. Not to mention, you know what I'm saying? Like, not to forget to mention that shit. 'Cause that shit was hot. I'm jamming to that shit too. Word, you know, that shit was ill, man. Yeah, I ain't want to put you on the spot. That shit, but I figure, you know what I mean? Fuck it.
That's honestly, if you're gonna be a rapper, you have to be ready to rhyme on the spot. Like I am old school in that respect. You know, I maybe didn't expect to rhyme tonight, but if you're going to be an artist and if you're going to be a rapper and you're going to make your media runs and do interviews and do shows, you have to be ready to rhyme if they ask you to rhyme.
I'm glad somebody agrees with me on that, because there's a lot of people that's kind of tight in the beginning, like, yo, he's asking me to rhyme, man. I don't got time for that. If I don't get the bars or I don't got the, you know what I'm saying? It's like, I'm an MC too. You know what I mean? I grew up with ciphers. I grew up with the on-the-spot battles and roasting each other and shit. So, you know what I mean? If somebody tells me they can't rap, I mean, if you got a good reason, cool, but I'm still that dude. I'm going to show up to the show. I might just hop on stage, grab the mic and fucking freestyle just for the fuck of it. So I expect that from all the people I listen to as a fan and all the artists that are up and coming. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's part of the trade. It's part of the craft. Like, if you're gonna call yourself a MC, like, you know.
Yeah, well,
sometimes you gotta rhyme.
That shit was hot, man. The shit you was saying is shit. I had to mute myself. I wanted to make sure everybody heard that shit. Word. That shit was crazy, man. Yeah, you got a lot of talent, man. I mean, in general, like, I definitely appreciate it, because when I sat there and checked out the background and researched this shit, you do it all. So, I mean, at the end of the day, you're like, not too many people can say that, and that's actually a blessing in disguise, to be able, you know, to DJ, MC, produce your own shit. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, you can't get a better storm. Straight up and down. Straight up and down. I wish I could fuck a DJ.
Like I said, man, it all stems from the love. You know? I had to do it for necessity, and then, you know, it morphed into self-sufficiency, you know?
I agree with you. I mean, man, you got so many titles, it's hard to keep up with you, to be honest with you. Like, straight up and down, man.
It's an all-day job. It is definitely an all-day job. Like, and that's the heart and core of the music business, is like, it's an all-day grind. Like, you know, you come home exhausted. Like, you know what I mean? So, you know, apart from like the work that I got to do to, you know, keep the bills paid and keep the lights on and keep Space Lab, the company, running and all that stuff, when all that's done, you know, I still got to find time to make beats and to write rhymes and to, you know, and that's why I try to make videos letting people know that, like, you know, anybody that has a 9-to-5 grind and is trying to do music, like, don't feel weird about that, because that problem never goes away. Like, even if you're doing music full time, like, your day will be filled with a number of responsibilities that are going to cut into your time to be creative and do what you love. Like, we get into this because we love rhyming and making beats and, you know, everything like that. But even being in the music business full time, there's so many other things that divert your attention away from your creativity that, like, I too have to scramble and hustle to find like an hour or two at the end of the day when, you know, before I'm too tired to do anything, to where like I can sit down on the beat machine and do something, or I can put a beat on and, you know, scribble some bars out. And, you know, that part never really goes away. Like, there's always going to be a tug of war between satisfying your creative side and keeping your bills paid. You know, and that doesn't go away in the music business.
That's life in general, you know what I mean?
To any creators out there, like, keep fighting the good fight. Yeah, keep fighting the good fight, because, like, we're all going through that in some capacity.
Yeah, this question,
you know?
might be kind of a tough one to ask and shit, but like, what do you feel like there's something that kind of makes you want to do more of? Like, would you prefer to be an MC, be a producer, or be a DJ? Like, which one kind of makes you want to do it more? Like, you know what I'm saying?
Well, it's hard to say. I would say this. I would say making beats is by far the most fun, because there's no pressure whatsoever. You know, I don't have to, like, it's just, there's no pressure. Like, I just sit down, I've got a musical idea, and I just go where I go. Like, making beats is my happy place. There's no headaches that comes with that. I would say rapping, and especially performing live on stage, is my biggest, like, it's my biggest excitement. Like, really getting to rock a stage in front of a crowd that cares, like, that's my biggest, like, emotional payoff. You know, I make the most money as a mix engineer, you know, because that extends so far beyond the scope of Jake Palumbo. Like, I can mix anyone's music, you know what I mean? Like, and so, you know, by far, like, I make the most money as a mix engineer, and I'm booked out the most as a mix engineer. And there have been points during the Solving Cases and Plant-Based Libtard, like during the runs when those albums first came out, that, like, I had to slow down on my engineering a little bit to get all my artist responsibilities taken care of. So, you know, I do have to acknowledge that. Like, I do have to some degree, prioritize, you know, my career as a mix engineer. But it's hard to, the thing is like, I can't live off just one. You know what I'm saying? Like, I make money as a rapper, not enough to completely support my lifestyle and home and, you know, take care of everything I got to take care of. Same thing with being a producer. I do make enough money as just an engineer that I could never make music again, but that wouldn't fulfill me creatively. Like, I never set out to, like, be a great engineer. You know, it's just something that, like, it was a skill that I needed to know in order to make my own music sound professional. And I figured out along the way I could make a career out of it. So saying that to say, like, I love my career as an engineer. I love everybody I work with. Every day I come into work, I feel good. I don't hate it. Like, it's great. But engineering is not my passion. So, like, I need to make music to satisfy me creatively. And thankfully, there's an audience of people who like it too. So, you know, I get to share it with them. But, you know, if bills didn't exist and there was, you know, money was no object in life, like, yes, I would just be a rapper and producer and just you know, start drinking Hennessy at noon and write rhymes and, never, never have to worry about anything. But, the reality is I have a business to run and to maintain. And so, it's always, like I said, even in the music business full time, it's always a tug of war between keeping the bills paid and doing what, satisfies you creatively and gives you happiness. But I'm fortunate to have that problem. And I'm fortunate to still be employed all these years later, and people still want me to work on their records, whether it's as a mixer, whether they want a feature verse, whether they want a beat, whatever, show, whatever it is. But yeah, it's all together like the melting pot. And that's the other thing that's good too, is by not having all my eggs in one basket. When one slows down at a certain time, the others pick up the slack. You know what I'm saying? Like, by not just depending on one, it keeps you balanced. You always want to have a diverse portfolio.
I mean, me personally, like, I definitely love producing over rapping, only because with the rapping, like you said, like there's certain like standards you have to abide by. So it is.
Yeah. Rapping is a headache sometimes, like, because I'm sitting there racking my brain, like, trying to come up with the illest shit, and this doesn't go right, or this rolls into the next bar the wrong way. Like, it's a lot more. When making beats, I don't have that. Like, I just sit down and I have fun and I do what I do, and there's literally, it's my happy place. With rapping, I gotta sweat a little bit. You know what I mean? Like,
that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying in that perspective, because, like I said, I can relate. I think that's why a lot of people can relate to me. I relate to them and shit, because I do it all. The only thing I do is fucking DJ. You know what I mean? But other than that, producing and singing, I can talk about it all fucking day and shit. But like producing, you can just be yourself. I mean, because even if you put it out there and people don't like it, don't matter. It's still your shit. It's still a piece of you in your art. So, you know what I'm saying? With the hip hop, with the rapping, it's similar, but at the same time, you are pushing it out to the public for people to accept what you're rapping or whatever the case might be. I mean, a lot of times, we don't give a fuck, but if you're gonna make it as a career, it's like you kind of have to have that one little piece of you where it's like, all right, well, how am I gonna do different than I did the last track or the last album, whatever. But with the beats, you can just fucking throw on make a rock beat. 5 minutes later, make an R&B beat or some shit, and you know what I mean? And it's all love.
Right.
Exactly. So I would personally,
rules.
I'd prefer that. If I was able to do my interviews over all my music, shit, I'll take the motherfucking interviews. Because, you know what I mean, get to meet great dudes like you, know what I mean, learn shit as I'm going, and just we all having a good time and shit. Like, I mean, like I said, I appreciate everybody that tunes in. It don't matter if it's 4, 5, 1, 0. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, every one person counts. You know what I mean? Just to pass that word, and at the same time, it shows love and appreciation. Because anybody can be out there right now at the clubs. They can be out there going to the strip clubs and shit like that, but they chilling. They watching us, man. So I appreciate it. I'll take this shit over all the other shit, straight up and down, man. Because to listen to everyone's backstories is fucking awesome, man. Because I mean, I always sat there and wanted as a fan. I think a lot of fans may not think like that, but like, I want to know the backstory to some of my favorite tracks. I want to know, like, yo, was somebody fighting somebody in the background? Was somebody's girlfriend was wilding out while they trying to record the verse? You know what I'm saying? Like, these type of shits make hip hop too. Like, it's the background stories, like the journey just to make the fucking hit. It's something I feel people need to learn too. So, you know what I mean? That's why we was talking about earlier with the track and shit. A lot to unpack. Like, there was a lot to it, and at the same time, it's like it was a story. There was a story behind it. So these type of shit is what makes hip hop fucking dope, and that's also what separates us from a lot of the other genres and shit. Is because there's a lot that goes down with us. You ain't gonna hear about no country dude getting shot or stabbed, or you ain't gonna, you know what I mean? I mean, but like you got our stories. I mean, someone's always getting some shit going down in hip hop. Like, there's no way to avoid it.
I don't know. Back in the outlaw country days in the '60s, you might hear that. Country singers was wild back in the '60s, man. They'd shoot each other, stab each other.
That was a whole nother, like, I'm talking about now. You ain't gonna hear about fucking Garth Brooks getting shanked in no stadium.
Nah, well, country singers now are from like Connecticut. You know what I mean? They've got like they're trying to
Yeah,
manufacture them
yeah.
like pop stars now. So, back in the day, they were like, grizzled whiskey swilling, guys that carried a
Yeah.
knife,
Nah, definitely. I hear
So,
you on that shit, man. I'm just saying in general though. Like, yeah, there's a lot of great stories, man. Like you had a lot of stories so far. You told a lot of shit tonight, man. I was actually surprised you had a lot of backstory to a lot of the shit too, man. Cause that was crazy.
yeah, there's a lot. Yeah, I'm going to write a book one day. I feel like I haven't, I still feel like I've got some stuff I need to accomplish first, but like I am going to write a book before it's all said and done because I've been privy to a lot of wild things that have happened in studios, and just as my own journey as an independent artist trying to navigate the waters and lasting this long. You know what I mean? Uh, a lot of crazy, wild things happen on the road and stuff over the years that I definitely feel like needs to be documented at some point, but. I'm real critical of myself, and I always feel like I need to accomplish a little bit more before I do
Yeah,
that.
no
But it's
doubt. I
coming
mean,
one day.
I'm pretty sure there'll be a whole bunch of shit up in that book. Shit. Yeah, like that. I would
Oh
definitely
yeah,
read that shit. Like, yeah, that's crazy. Like, you got a lot of background, man. You got so many fucking titles and albums, and I mean, you do it all too. So I mean, you definitely would have a long ass book. I'm pretty sure you're gonna be writing, but no doubt, no doubt,
yeah,
man.
right.
I'm gonna wrap this up, but yo, on some real shit, I definitely appreciate your time, man. Like you said, I know you definitely busy and shit. You got so much shit to do,
Yo,
and I can only imagine, like, I can only fathom what you got to deal with in the daily.
nah, this was dope, man. I appreciate you having me, man. This was fun, and I like I said, man. It doesn't matter. Somebody who was listening, probably wasn't familiar with me before and is now. You know what I'm saying? So like that's why I always like pulling up to anybody's show and building. You know what I mean? Because like I said, you as an artist, you got to be a politician. You got to go out and meet everybody and talk shop a
Yeah,
little bit and let people know your story and what you stand for and where you're coming from and all that stuff. And yeah, no, this was dope, man. Thank you for having me. And as always, if you need anything in the future, just holler at me
no doubt.
and
And
we'll get
likewise,
it done,
bro.
man.
Anything you drop, man, just tag me in it. I'll put that shit up. You know what I'm saying? No doubt. You know what I mean? Because, like,
Word.
I appreciate what you do for hip hop. Appreciate what you've done for all the artists. And in general, man, you seem like a good dude, man. I was glad to build with you with shit. You know what I mean? But no, but no doubt.
Likewise,
But
man.
yeah, we'll wrap
Definitely.
this up and shit. Drop it on YouTube when I get a chance because unfortunately shit takes forever to upload. Fuck it. I hate that. That's the only downside to this whole
Word.
shit that people don't know. It takes a whole fucking day to upload. So, but it's
Yeah,
all
that's
definitely worth it.
crazy. Once I started doing my own videos, I learned quick. I was like, "Oh man, I gotta be. You gotta have a day or two lead time to get
Yeah.
everything uploaded and coded and hashtags and metadata and
Yo,
all that stuff.
indeed.
Yeah, it's a process.
Yeah, yeah. So you already I'm glad you acknowledge that.
Word.
Other people be like, rather than show like, yo, drop it now. I'm like, bro, I gotta like add this and that, chop this, like this shit that's gotta be done before it go up on YouTube. So, you know what I mean? But it's definitely gonna be up and
Right.
shit. I definitely appreciate you, man. Like, yo, this was dope as shit. So we'll definitely no
Likewise, man.
doubt you
Great
are.
building with you, bro.
Oh yeah, most
We'll do
definitely.
it
Oh,
again
most
soon,
definitely.
man.
We can do this shit again, man. Next time we'll have more jokes at it too, man. I know you loaded with that shit. No,
Definitely, man. You know
no
me,
doubt,
man.
no doubt.
I'm
So
down
bet.
humor.
So I'm holler at you in a few, yo. All right,
Word
man.
them up, man.
Peace.
Great building with y'all. Peace.
Yeah, that was the homie Jake Palumbo, man. Yo, he's been in the game, man. He's got so much titles and so many stories, man. I hope y'all enjoyed tonight and shit. I'm gonna be dropping this video soon. Once again, like I said, shit takes all day and all night with the YouTube and the Instagram and all this other funny shit. But yeah. Yeah, bet. I'm gonna look into that, yo. I appreciate that. Yeah. Not sure who we got next week and shit, but yeah. Make sure you check out and subscribe to the YouTube. I got, you know what I mean? I got the Elder Sensei interview on there and a couple others and shit. I got like, what, 50 episodes or something like that. And once again, shout out to the sponsors and shit. You know what I mean? Snow Goons, Lee Sound International, you know what I mean? Creative Juices Music, of course, you know what I mean? All the regular family and shit. And, yo, I hope y'all have a great weekend and shit, and God bless.